I am often asked, hey, we've got this strategic plan for this K-12 district or for a charter school, and we're ready to work and implement the plan. Can you come and help us with the plan? And I was like, send me the plan. And the plans are often beautifully done, photos everywhere, multiple streams, 7, 8, 10 pages. It's just, it's a gorgeous plan. And I usually ask one question. What is the key driver for this plan? And always school districts say, you got it, student improvement, student achievement. That's the key driver. If that's the key driver, I usually follow up with something like, where's the students in this plan? So if the key driver is we want students to improve, but we're not talking to students, I'm confused. So here's the thing about a wonderful strat plan. I think strategic plans are great, and I understand why people feel like we need them. I often have seen them go by the wayside. A couple of things happen specifically in school districts. There's a strategic plan. The superintendent comes in with a plan. The superintendent takes a year to socialize and be like, here's the plan. 2 years later, the superintendent is gone. They take a year to do a search. Then the next year, here comes the new superintendent. They take a year to do the plan. You understand what I'm saying? It's a cycle. What I have found in school districts where that's not the case, and where there is a little more stability, is folks try and work a plan. And then what happens is the plan is now 10 years old and it's obsolete, and we're still trying to work that and implement that plan. One of the things that I have learned is, I've been redoing my house for several years, right? And when it's too big and too broad, right? It's like this elephant. So for me, I want to redo my home, and I had a million things that I want to do to the home. And I remember talking to my contractor, and I remember him saying it's a step at the time, right? A step at a time. And I was like, no, redo my whole house, right? And I have an old home. And so every time I worked on one section, like that one step, numerous things came out, like once they opened a wall, it was like, oh, we need to do these 5 things that we hadn't thought of. It's the same with school districts. It's the same when we're trying to do change. And I'm not saying that we shouldn't do plans, and I'm not saying that plans are great. What I'm saying is we need to get uber specific. I like a rule of three, right? Like, what are the 3 things that everyone can get behind? And you know what happens in school districts is we'll have three, but then there'll be subcategories of all the three. Listen, what are the 3 things? Is it, for example, attendance, literacy, and care? Are those the 3? Let's just say those are the 3. And let's say that the leadership of the school district talks to the board and they agree that literacy, super important, attendance, kind of got to be in school if you're going to learn, and care. We often leave out, we say things like community schools, and we say create the conditions for learning, and we say things like, all of these other things that are supposed to mean that we're caring about children, but we often don't name that. And what I'm very interested in is working with school districts who are not, I was going to say are not scared, but instead what I'm going to say are concerned about what it means, because then we have to go down this rabbit hole. What is care? Well, I'm going to define it for you. Care is allowing the person in front of you to know that you see them, that you respect them, and that you're going to do your very best to take them where they are and to lead them somewhere else. It's pretty simple. I know what it feels like when somebody cares about me. I know what it feels like. I get giddy, right, when I think about it. When I think about someone caring for me, I know what that feels like. And our children, our students know what that feels like as well. How do I know? Because I talk to a lot of students. And I talk to them and hear them say, we know that we can't trust these adults, or we know that these adults don't care, or we know that these adults will hear someone call me a racial slur and not do anything about it. So I don't trust them. They don't care about me. Similarly, they're like, well, you know that one guy really, really is the one that cares about me. And as a result, that's the teacher that I'm going to be, down with or what have you. Like there's a knowledge there. And so what I would just encourage folks is do a plan, but narrow it, and don't narrow it to the point where you've got 87 subgroups underneath, like if you're choosing three. Make sure that your board is in alignment. Make sure you've got your talking points and select your leaders who are going to be able to manage making sure that you can implement the types of goals that you want underneath those three or okay, four things. And that is what I've seen with districts. That's where it really, really works when you get really clear. Boy, if we get our attendance together, this is it, right? Because people vote with their feet. Or, boy, if we get that literacy together, then we know the other important subjects will also fall into place because everything we do is going to be embedded in literacy. Or if we can create a sense of care for all of our students, for our students who don't look like us and for our students who do, for our students who don't want to be at school and our students who are A students, if we can create that type of care for our students, what might happen for them? How might they see the world differently? Those are just three examples. Whatever you've chosen to work on, I encourage you, if you're looking at your strategic plans, to be strategic enough to make it small enough so it can be in bite-sized chunks and so it can be doable because nothing feels better. Okay. Some things feel better, but what feels really, really good is when we can take a plan, we can be clear about it, we can talk about it, people understand it, we can be united around it, and we can implement it so our students can thrive.